going to do your pre-trip on this side of the truck.
Okay.
Maryland and DC,
Oh, thank you.
we do it on this side. So I'm going to do it on this side, but it's the same exact thing on both sides. All right, so basically, as you approach the truck, you're going to check the truck to make sure it's not leaning to the left side or to the right side. That will indicate a suspension problem and or a flat tire. All right, and we also want to check the clearance lights up top, the headlights and signal lights. We want to make sure that they are proper color, properly secured to the truck, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks. At that point, we'll check underneath the engine compartment, making sure it's nice and dry. Don't worry about the little drip there. That's condensation from the air, AC. That's on in the truck. Don't worry about that. But we just want to make sure there's no oil spills or transmission fluid spills. Once we complete, we then open up the hood, so we'll unlatch. All right. Once complete, we'll pull up the hood. Start on the driver's side. We'll first start at our driving steering gearbox here. The gearbox and hose properly secure, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, and or leaks. Also, the connecting arm and the rod here, as well as the carter keys on both ends, are properly secured to the truck. No missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks there. Check out coolant through the sight glass, making sure it reads between add and full. If we happen to need to fill up this coolant reservoir, what we'll do is just wait till the engine cool off, and then we'll fill it up. And we'll check out power steering with the dipstick, checking the fluid. We'll pull the dipstick out, wipe it clean, reinsert it, pull it back out. It should read between the add and the full mark on the dipstick. Same thing with the oil dipstick. Pull it out, wipe it clean, reinsert it, pull it back out. Should read between add and full on the dipstick mark. We will also drop down from our power steering fluid to the power steering fluid hose. The hose leads back down to the gear-driven power steering pump. All right, that's one of the two gear-driven parts. The power steering pump is gear-driven. And those two parts are properly secured to the truck. No missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks, and none of the hoses are dry rot afraid. We'll also check the air compressor and air compressor lines. You'll see those two brass parts. Those are the air lines connected to the air compressor. That is a gear-driven part also. That's the second gear-driven part. That is properly secure. No missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks. No bulges, not dry rot afraid as far as the rubber lines, the air lines that is. At that point, we would normally go onto the other side, but I'm gonna actually check out the suspension parts here. We have the front hanger mount, rear hanger mounts behind the frame of the truck here. So the front and rear properly secure, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks. U-bolts, the U-bolts in the form, shape of a U over the leaf springs. U-bolts properly secured to the truck, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks. The leaf springs properly secured, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks, and they're not shifted out of place and or missing. All right. Then we'll check the brake hose, the brake chamber here, properly secure, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks. Hose not dry rot afraid. The slack adjuster push rod. Slack adjuster is right here. Being that the tire is turned this way, that's why I'm doing it on this side, because you can see it. So the slack adjuster here is at a 90-degree angle. The push rod is right behind. The push rod and slack adjuster should not move more than 1 inch. Slack adjuster should be at a 90-degree angle. Push rod is the one that shouldn't move more than 1 inch. All right, they're both properly secure, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks. The brake drum is free of contaminants such as oil or grease. The reason we say oil or grease, this is a hub oil seal. That busts open, it can contaminate the brakes, making the brakes slippery and they won't hold. All right, so free of contamination such as oil or grease. They're properly secured to the truck, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks. And the brake lining, which is in the back side, if we could see them, we'll check to make sure that they are the proper thickness. We'll then check the inner and outer wall of the tires to make sure there's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. We'll check the tread with the tread depth gauge, making sure that it reads 432 in the front. No recaps allowed on the front tire. We'll check the air pressure with the air pressure gauge as well, reading between 80 to 100 pounds of pressure. They no longer use the rubber mallet. They took that out of the test. So you just say air pressure gauge, reads between 80 to 100 pounds of pressure. Drop down to the rim itself. Rim, no illegal welds, properly secured, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks there. Valve stem and valve stem cap. The cap is present. valve stem properly secure, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damage, or leaks there. Check the lug nuts. All lug nuts are present. No shiny threads around the rust trail. Excuse me, no shiny threads around the lug nut, and no rust trails leading away from the lug nuts, which indicates a loose lug nut. Then you got your hub oil seal. That's properly secure. No missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, and or leaks. So we'll head over to the other side. We're going to check our belt-driven alternator. The alternator is the one with the red and white wires. That's the alternator. Has the red and white wires. It's belt-driven. That's a belt. It drives the alternator and wires. That is properly secure. No missing nuts or bolts. No cracks, damages, or leaks, and the wires are not melted or frayed. Any electrical wires, electricity gets hot, it can melt and fray the rubber casing around the wires. Now the belt itself, if I was to push on it, should not have more than 3/4 of play or 3/4 of play within that belt. As we drop down, there's the water pump, which is belt driven as well. That belt driven water pump properly secure. No missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks there. Now, usually I would shut the hood. You can leave it open, but we'll drop back to the mud flap, checking the mud guard, making sure it's properly secured, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks there. Our steps are free of debris, properly secured, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damage, or leaks. CDL, not commercial driver's license. Try to remember that. That's a cheat code. Cracks, damages, or leaks. All right. Then we'll go to our exhaust system. The exhaust, properly secure, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damage, or leaks. There's no leaks such as carbon soot trails. Say if there was a crack here, you'll see black soot leading away from that leak. From that cracked spack. All right, so no carbon soot trail leaking. All right, then the frame itself and the cross members. Here's the cross members. They're in the shape of a ladder, and they're properly secure, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks, and no illegal welds anywhere on the frame. Now the drive shaft here, which is this long piece here, and your U joints shaped like U, they're properly greased or lubricated, and it's free of debris, properly secure, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks there. Then we come back to our second axle, and this part is where you actually just name the parts, and you say you check it as you did the front tire. And the only difference is you will have to name the new parts that you may come across. Because up front on the tire, we got a hub oil seal up there. But back here, this is an axle seal. So that's the only different part. So that part where you're gonna have to say properly secure, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks. But for the suspension parts, front, rear hanger mounts, the U-bolts, and the leaf springs, I would check as I did the front. That's all you have to say.
Also in Virginia.
And the only difference is we have a torque arm in the back. Up front, we have a shock absorber. Shock absorber, you check the top and bottom shock absorber, making sure it's properly secure. No missing nuts or bolts there, no cracks, damages, or leaks. But here we got the torque arm. Then you name the brake parts again. It's 5 brake parts. The brake hose, the brake chamber, the slack adjuster push rod, the brake drum, and brake line. The brake lining and drums and hose, chamber, slack adjuster push rod, you check as you did the front tire. That's all you have to say. Same thing with the tires. You check the inner and outer wall, tread depth, and air pressure as you did the front, with the exception of 2 tires in the back. It's a dual tire. So the tread depth for this one is 232. That one is 432 up front. So this one is 232. Recaps are allowed on the back tires. They are not allowed up front. All right? Now, after that, being that there are 2 tires, we got to check in the middle of the dual butted rim to make sure it's free of debris. Don't want to have anything caught up in the middle of the tire. All right, after that, we'll then check our rim, the lug nuts, the valve stem and valve stem cap. We'll check it as we did the front. With the exception, the new part, the axle seal, we'll make sure it's properly secure, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks. Check this mud flap like we did the front mud flap. We'll check our frame and deck. Frame, no illegal welds. Deck, no missing planks. Both properly secure, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks. We'll then check the DOT reflective tape along the trailer, as well as the lights, amber in color to the front, and all the way in the back, the color is red. All right? And then we'll also check our tie downs as well. All these parts are properly secure, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks. we'll get to the next part, which is our third axle. This axle, we'll do the same thing, just name all the parts and say we check it like we did the previous axle. So we have to name, there's a lot of repeated parts, you know, we're just saying the same thing over and over again. So we have to name the front and rear hangers, leaf springs, the U-bolts, the torque arm, and we check those as we did the front tire. Then we name the brake hose, brake chamber, slack adjuster push rod, brake drum, brake lining. We check as we did the front. Now we check the inner and outer tire wall, the tread depth, the air pressure inside the middle of the rim itself, the lug nuts, the axle seal and valve stem cap as we did the front. Then we just walk back to the last one and we'll say we check this final axle as we did the 3 previous axles. Would you like me to demonstrate? If they say no, that means you got everything on that one, you're pretty good, they don't want you to go over it. But if you miss something, they're giving you a chance to make up for it. So if you missed it, just go over everything. Name all the suspension parts, all the brake parts, the tires, the air pressure, the rims, the valve stem cap, lug nuts, axle seal, and make sure you say that they're all properly secured, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks. Because sometimes you name everything, but you may have forgot one of the 3 details, saying either properly secured, or you probably forgot missing nuts or bolts, or forgot cracks, damages, and leaks. Sometimes they say cracks and leaks. What happened to the damages? You gotta say all parts to get the points. If you don't say all parts, they're not gonna give you the points. But normally, you will get it, you'll get all 3 right. They'll say, oh, don't worry about this one, continue on. You say, I'll check this mud flap like I did the front. Then you go to the back, you say, I'll check my red lights here in the back, as well as my DOT tape, all present, properly secured, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks there. And we check out ABS light. ABS brake light here is amber in color, properly secured to the truck, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks. On this side of the truck, we'll check this side of the truck and trailer as we did that side. All of the points now shift. For you, you're in Virginia, you're gonna say, you're gonna get on that side and say, I'll check that side of my truck as I did this side to make sure, you know, all your points shift over to that side.
You don't have to go over everything again?
No, you don't have to go over everything. You just do this side of the truck. You know how we walked on that side? You're just gonna do it on this side. And then when you get to this, you'll check the back, and then you'll get over here and say, I'll check this side of my truck and trailer like I did that side. And then you don't have to worry about it. You can just jump in the truck, and then you'll go into your gauges and air brake tanks. So on this side of the truck, we also have the crank handle. That's in the proper lock position. It is properly secured, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks. And the landing gear is in the proper raised lock position. That is properly secured, no missing nuts or bolts there, no cracks, damages, or leaks. Then we check our locking jaw. The locking jaw is up under here. It is secure around the kingpin, and the kingpin is not bent and or broken. Both of those parts are properly secured, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks. We check the apron, which is this part here, this big part here. It sits on the skid plate. There's no gaps in between the skid plate, and you can see a lot of the grease is properly lubricated. All that black, look, that's grease, properly lubricated. Those 2 parts, the apron and skid plate, they're properly secure, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks there. Then you check your locking pin. Locking pin and the hitch release lever, those 2 are in the proper lock position, and they're properly secured, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks there. Now here at the front of the trailer, we don't have one here, but for extra points, you can say if I had a header board, I would check it to make sure that it was properly secure, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks, and strong enough to withstand cargo crashing into the header board. Then you check your glad hands and the airline connections. You'll feel and listen for any air leaks. You'll also make sure they're properly secure in the lock position. No missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks there. Check the electrical connection, making sure it's secure, properly secure, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks, not melted or frayed. Check out couplings. The couplings for the airlines on the truck side. They're properly secure. The airlines, I'll listen and feel for any air leaks. They're also properly secure, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks there. Electrical connection, properly secure, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks, not melted or frayed. Check my stairs on this side, just like I did the other side. You don't have to worry about that. I'll check my fuel tank straps. The straps, There's no shininess around the straps, which indicates looseness. The fuel tank itself also properly secure, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks on the fuel tank. The fuel tank cap is present. If I was to take it off, the chain is attached to the fuel tank cap, and inside there's a rubber seal that is secure in the cap to make sure that there's no leaks coming out. The cap is properly secured, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks there. Then we got the fuel lines, the electrical lines, properly secure, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks. The fuel electric lines are not melted or frayed. All right, now we check the door. Open and close the door to make sure it opens and closes properly. We'll check the door hinges. The door hinges are properly secured, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks there. And we check the handrail, properly secured, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks there. Then we check our emergency equipment, which will be the ABC fire extinguisher. And we want to make sure that that is secure and also fully charged. The way we can see that it is fully charged, we'll check the needle inside, and it should be on the green. That allows us to know that it is fully charged, and the locking pin is still inside the ABC fire extinguisher to make sure it's locked, so it's secure. Then we check out 3 reflective triangles, which are under the passenger seat, and the spare fuses, which are located in the glove compartment box. After that, you use 3 points of contact to get in the truck. You'll put a hand on the rail, hand on the door, foot on the steps, and you'll enter the vehicle. At this point, the first thing I did was sit down in the seat, so we're gonna check the seat. The seat properly secure, no missing nuts or bolts here, no cracks, damages, and leaks in the seat. Grab your seat belt. You want to fasten it just to make sure it properly fastens, and there's no cuts or abrasions on my seat belt. You can take that off. You only need that on when you're actually about to move the truck, so you don't have to do it on the pre-trip, only when you're about to start your actual skills test, then you put it on. But once we complete, we will close the door. We're going to check the mirrors. The mirrors are attached to the bracket. The bracket is attached to the door. All 3 of those parts are properly secure, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks in the mirror. Then we'll start the truck, do a safe start, we turn on to see all the lights on the dash. If you want to, you can jump in on the other side and get a better view. All right, so once the lights go out there, so I'll turn it back on. Yeah, go ahead, close it for me, close it. There you go. All right. Perfect. Now, oh shit, you want to lock it? Yeah. Perfect. All right. Open that. All right, now I'm gonna do a safe start. The safe start, basically what I'm gonna do is turn my key on. You'll see it light up. All the dash lights up. You see there's a wait to start light at the top. Once that goes out, now we can turn on the engine. Now we talk about the gauges. My oil gauge, you see it start to rise. My water gauge start to rise to the proper levels. My battery voltage reads between 12 and 14. My fuel is about 3/4 full, enough for the test. And both of my air gauges are reading between 100 to 120 pounds of pressure. Then we'll check our lights, our headlights, signal lights, the 4-way flashes and high beams. The signal light works. My right signal light works. My high beams work. My flashes here work. And my lights here, I just turn that on and you'll see the dash light up. The entire dash lights up. That's my lights. My lights work. After that, we're going to check the defrosters. Defrosters, you turn to the heat, all the way down to defrost. You fill up top, fill down bottom. That works. Turn it off. And at that point, we'll check our windshield wipers. Windshield wipers are flush to the windshield. The windshield wiper blades are not dry rot or frayed because they are rubber. The blades are connected to the arms connected to the truck, properly secured, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks there. Also the windshield, it has no illegal stickers or obstructions blocking any of my view here. The windshield is properly secured to the truck, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damages, or leaks in the windshield. At this point, we're down at 120. What we're gonna do, we can check our steering. No more than 2 inches of play. My horn works. No more than 2 inches of play in the steering wheel. Now we're gonna talk about the air test, the air brake test. So with the air brake test, you have to do 3 steps. The first step, turn the engine off. Second step is to turn the electricity back onto the truck. So you want to see that light up. And after we do that, if you don't mind putting that wheel chalk right there on, now in the front. Yep. All right. Now the third thing, after we turn it off and turn the electricity back on, release the brakes. Now we get to talk about the air brake test. You talk to the tester will be in the passenger seat. You tell them, I'm going to now perform my air brake test where I will hold down my service brake, which is the pedal, for 1 minute. Within the 1 minute, I should not lose more than 4 pounds of pressure in that 1 minute. Can you please time me? They have a stopwatch. They will time you. They'll say, you ready? You say yes. They say start now. You hold that brake down for 1 minute. Don't ever let go until they say your minute is up. Then they'll say, okay, sir, your minute is up. You release the brakes. You tell them, I did not lose more than 4 pounds of pressure within that 1 minute. Now I'm going to continue to fan my brakes down to approximately 60 pounds of pressure. And my lights and buzzers here on my air pressure gauges should indicate and actually engage, so they'll work. So we'll see them light up as we go down past 60. Both light up and you hear the buzzers. All right, they work. Now I'm going to continue to fan down approximately 40 pounds of pressure, and both of my valves should pop out. So at this time, no longer look at the gauge, look at the valves. Just make sure those two come out. Don't stop pumping the brakes until they pop out. They both popped out. This concludes the air brake test. This is the only part of the test where you have to get 100% on it. You have to make sure you do everything. You got to turn the key off, turn it on, pushing those brakes, hold it for 1 minute. Fan it down to 60 so the lights and buzzers come on, then fan down to 40 so these two pop out. And that concludes your air brake test. Then you have to perform a tug test. Tug test is where we actually tug on one of the brakes to make sure that they work, they hold. So what we'll do is start the engine back up to rebuild the air pressure up to 120. And when you do that, you just give it a little gas to 15 RPMs. Once it gets to 15, you just hold it there, and you'll start to see the gauges slowly rise. Yep. Hold it to 15 RPMs, and you'll see the air pressure gauges here. You'll see they slowly starting to rise. Once they get over 60, those red lights and buzzers will cut off, and they'll go all the way up to 120, and you'll hear that loud, that cutout sound. That's when you know you're at 120 pounds of pressure, because it'll stop. So we're slowly going over 60. Once it gets closer to 90, it'll cut out. This one is going to cut out first, and that one will cut out second. Cut out. Now that one's going to cut out. And if you're right there, cuts out. No more lights and buzzers. Now we just want to listen for that. That's the cutout sound. That's when we're at 120. But you just hold it at 15 RPM. That's all you do. If you go at 20 RPMs, it's not going to move faster. Or you just over-revving the engine. So just keep it at 15, you should be good. Now if you don't do that, if you don't hold it to 15, it's going to take about 3 to 5 minutes to get all the way up to air pressure. So giving it a little gas to 15, that helps speed up a little bit. So it's about a minute, minute and a half. So we're almost at 120 now. This one will reach 120 first. The top one, a little delay behind. But the top one is the one that's going to hear that cutout sound. Listen, it's coming up. Here it comes. There it is. All right, now we're going to perform the tug test. The tug test is basically when we push in one brake and leave one out. And that's the one that we're checking, the one that's left out. So basically, before we do that, we want to check our gears. So we shift all gears, reverse, neutral, drive, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to leave it at 1. That's the low gear. And we'll now release the brakes. Where I'll tug on my trailer brake, which is the trailer, we'll just tap the gas. It holds. That brake is working. We pull this one out and push this one in. Now we're checking the truck brakes. We'll just tap on the gas real lightly. It holds. That concludes the air brake and tug test. Now you ask the tester, can you please perform the buddy system, where you check my outside lights around the truck just to make sure they work. They'll say yes, they'll get out, and they'll tell you turn left signal. They'll say turn right signal. Say your high beams, turn that on. They'll say your hazard lights, you hit your hazard lights. Then go to the back. They'll say brake lights. Tap on the brakes. Reverse lights. If reverse lights work, put it back in neutral. Then they'll say you're good to go. All right, sir. This concludes. You passed the pre-trip. Now you're going to move around and go to the start position for your skills test. And that's when you do the straight back, the offset, and the parallel park. And after that, you go on the road. Any questions?
I was gonna ask you, in Virginia, the manual, same thing.
Yeah, for the manual, you don't have to do that.
No.
Yeah, you don't have to check the gears. You'll only just you'll put it in first gear, and what you do is clutch in, and as you let out, you push this one in. You let the clutch out a little bit. Once it catch, it'll jerk. You'll see that it holds. Then you push the clutch back in, pull that brake out, and push that one in, and do the same thing. Let the clutch out a little bit, it'll jerk. Then you push the clutch back in and pull that one back out.
And when you are checking these, same thing as here, first the reverse.
Nope, you don't do that. Not in the manual. Not in the manual. In the manual, you just go to first.
And what about the other tester said something about actually going?
No, you no longer have to do that. That's where you would drive 5 miles an hour and then hit the service brake just to make sure that brake works. You don't have to do that no more. They took that out. So yeah, you don't have to do that. Yep.
Yep, that's it.
All right, we're good to go.
Thank you very much.